Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Chelsea L'Italian. I am the Associate Director of Incoming International Student Services in the Office of Global Services, and I am joined by...
I'm Caroline Dixon. I'm an International Student and Scholar Advisor in the Office of Global Services, and I'll turn it over to Chelsea.
Thanks, Caroline. So I will be talking to you guys first, and then I will hand it over to Caroline. You will see that there is a space for you to be able to ask questions. So Caroline and I will alternate spending some time over there. I recommend, waiting to ask questions until we've gotten through most of the presentation, just because we might answer your question in advance. But if you have a question that simply cannot wait, please go ahead and type it into the Q&A function. The main goals of today's presentation are to provide you with an overview of the steps and the general timeline to apply for an F-1 visa, and then to answer general questions that you might have about the I-20 or F-1 visa application process. We can't answer case-specific questions or update you on your specific I-20 request, and we're not going to get into anything kind of after your arrival or maintaining your status or employment, other F-1 benefits. Those are things that you will get a lot of information about later. Our focus today is really just on the I-20 and visa process, and we're keeping it, again, kind of general. If you do have specific questions about your situation, we will share the contact information for OGS at the end, for the Office of Global Services, OGS, so that you can send us any specific questions and we can advise you a lot more comprehensively that way. So with that, I've mentioned the Office of Global Services, or OGS, a couple of times. OGS is a resource for Northeastern's very, very large population of international students. We have the second largest population of international students of any university in the US, with over 24,000 international students and scholars at our US Global Campus Network. Those students represent over 147 different nations. So you will be in very good and very diverse company here at Northeastern. We provide professional experience, professional expertise, guidance based on our many, many years of experience on the team in this office to help support you with maintaining your immigration status, as well as adjusting to life in the US, and ultimately being successful in your academic career and your professional career beyond that. I mentioned a large team of experienced folks here. That team is made up of international student and scholar advisors who are designated school officials, DSOs, and alternate responsible officers, AROs. I will go into more detail on the next slide on exactly what that means, but we are the people who are responsible for updating and maintaining student and scholar SEVIS records in compliance with federal regulations. Only OGS advisors who have this designation as DSOs or AROs can issue forms I-20 for F-1 students or DS 2019 for J-1 students. I referred to SEVIS records. So SEVIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. That is the government database where all international student and scholars are monitored throughout their time in the US. And so we as DSOs are the ones who can access that database. So I mentioned designated school officials. DSOs are specific to F-1 students. We are the people who provide comprehensive immigration advising and guidance during, before, during, and after your program at Northeastern. Our priority is to ensure that you and the institution are complying with federal requirements. So making sure that you have the information that you need to maintain your F-1 status in the US, and making sure that the institution is also reporting accurately on your time here in the US and all of the other reporting requirements required of us. You'll receive an I-20, which I will talk more about, but you will find the name of the DSO, the member of the OGS team who issued your I-20, on the front page of that document. And we have a team of, I want to say 30 to 40. We have a sizable team of DSOs here who are supporting you throughout your time at Northeastern and before and after. Something I really want to highlight is the OGS website. This is going to be your first stop for any question that you might have about your F-1 status, about your time in the US, about preparing for your time in the US. I've highlighted a couple of points here that we are sort of going to be referring to in our presentation today. So things like requesting your I-20, the financial requirements for your I-20, past recordings of webinars that we've done previously, and eventually the recording of this very webinar today will be in one of those highlighted links there, as well as information about the visa application process, paying the SEVIS fee, which we will talk more about, all the way through to arriving in the US, completing your international student orientation. And this is just in the section for new students. We also have a section for current students for employment benefits offered to international students. So the OGS website is a really, really robust resource that should be your first stop with any questions that you have. Certainly, if you can't find an answer there or need a little bit more guidance, there is also a link on our website to contact us through our service portal, and we'll be able to provide you, more specific guidance that way. So let's take a look at the timeline for your F-1 visa process. You can see here, this is a pretty standard overview of what this process is going to look like. So first step, pay your enrollment deposit. I think for most folks here, you should have already done that. So congratulations. We are very, very excited to be welcoming you to Northeastern in the fall. Your next step is going to be to request your I-20 from OGS. I'll go into a lot more detail about exactly how to do that. Next, you're going to receive your electronic I-20 from us. You'll pay a SEVIS fee and a visa fee and submit your visa application. You'll have a visa interview. You will hopefully receive your visa, plan your travel, and then arrive in the US. So we're going to go through each of these steps in more detail, but this gives you an overview. There are a lot of steps that go into this process. The timeline for this whole process can really vary. It can depend on volume in our office for getting your I-20 to you. It can depend on visa and consulate operations in your country. It can depend on a lot of factors. So we encourage you to start this process as soon as possible. If you have confirmed your enrollment, you can start this process today. This presentation is going to give you sort of approximate times for each of these steps, but in general, we say allow at least 2 to 3 months for the entire process. It might take less, it could very well take more, and it's really hard to know in advance. So give yourself as much time as possible. Also, use the same documents all throughout this process. We'll talk a little bit more about like financial documents that you're using to request your I-20. You'll want to make sure that those are the same documents that you're going to be using throughout the entire visa application process. So I've mentioned a form I-20 a couple of times already. This is an example of what the I-20 looks like. So an I-20 is a government document issued by Northeastern to admitted international students who will need an F-1 visa to study in the US. So this form is a 3-page document, and it is proof that you have met the requirements of admission to Northeastern and that you have demonstrated sufficient funding for the program that you are admitted to. So once you receive an I-20, you will see there are details at the top of the form about you. There's some details in the middle about us as an institution, about the program that you're going into, and about the estimated costs of that program and the funding that you have demonstrated to us to show that you can pay for that program. There's also a section for us to sign that we are attesting that all of this information is accurate. There's also a spot for you to sign. So once you receive this I-20, you'll want to review it and sign it. There are also 2 more pages to this document. So on the second page, there will be different types of authorizations you might receive. So if you might be doing experiential learning, you'll need employment authorization for that. If you're going to be traveling, there's a travel endorsement section. So page 2 is for that. And then page 3 covers in a sort of a brief overview, although it is a full page of very small text, of all of the requirements of your F-1 status. So you want to make sure that you are reading all 3 pages of this document when you receive it, and that you are keeping all copies of I-20s that you receive throughout your time in the US. The I-20 is essentially a physical representation of your SEVIS record. So I mentioned that your SEVIS record is a record in the government database for student and exchange visitors. Your I-20 is a physical representation of that record. And so anytime something changes in your SEVIS record, you'll get a new I-20. So you want to keep all of those copies that you receive over your whole time in the US, because that is essentially your immigration record in the US. So that is the I-20. There's also the F-1 visa. And so these are 2 different things. Your I-20 is issued by the institution. It represents all of your program details. It is the document that fully represents your F-1 status in the US. You use that I-20 to apply for an F-1 visa. An F-1 visa is an entry document to the US. So international students who are admitted to a school that is approved by the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, students who are admitted to those schools get the Form I-20 that I mentioned and are then eligible to apply for an F-1 visa. So the F-1 visa is a non-immigrant visa. It's the student visa that permits studying in the US in a full-time degree program. The primary purpose of F-1 status is to study. You will probably hear us emphasize that more than once, but there are additional benefits that you could be eligible for, like on-campus employment, curricular practical training or CPT, optional practical training or OPT. Those are all things that come along with your F-1 status. You can find a lot more detailed information about that in the International Student Orientation that you will complete and on the OGS website. We should see how many times I can mention the OGS website, because it is my favorite resource that I like to direct people to. So yes, your F-1 visa is a document that will be in your passport. It allows you to request entry to the US. It allows you to appear at the border and say, hi, I'm hoping to enter the US in F-1 status. You present your visa and your I-20, among other documents. Once you have entered the US, the visa is a less important document once you're inside the country. The I-20 is the one that's really going to represent your active status in the US. So these are very, very connected documents, but still different. So let's get into the details of how to go through this process. So to request your I-20, you will need to submit an e-form to our office. So an e-form is going to be, an electronic application. You will have a My OGS portal that you submit all e-forms to our office through. And you will be submitting e-forms for all sorts of different things through this portal. So for your initial I-20 request, to confirm your arrival when you get here, for any types of employment authorization, for travel endorsement, and a whole bunch of other things. So you will get very familiar with the My OGS portal and with e-forms. So you will submit an e-form to our office to request your I-20. There are a few different sections that will ask for information about you. We'll ask you to confirm that we have the correct program information for you, or if that's incorrect, you can tell us the correct program information so that we can confirm that. And you will then be asked to upload financial documents that prove that you have available funding for 1 academic year of studies. So on our website and also in the e-form where you're submitting this request, you will see the estimated expenses for your first academic year of your program. You'll need to demonstrate funding that covers at least that amount. On our website again, and in the e-form, there are really detailed guidance about what types of documents you can submit, what types of documents you can't. The funding needs to be liquid, it needs to be readily available, so we cannot accept things like stocks or investments or securities, anything along those lines. It needs to be something like a checking account, a savings account, maybe an educational loan. If you do have scholarships, especially ones that are issued by Northeastern, take a look at that scholarship letter. It's probably going to be a percentage of your total tuition. And so when you're submitting that I-20 request to us, if you're using a Northeastern scholarship that's a percentage amount, you'll want to take that percentage of the estimated tuition on the e-form and put that number in. So not, you won't necessarily have a dollar number on the letter. You're going to want to take that percentage. You will find a lot more detailed instructions on the OGS website in that new student section. There we go, 3 mentions of referring you to the website for lots more detailed guidance, especially regarding which types of financial documents are acceptable and which ones are not. A note for students, if you're currently in the US in F-1 status, you've got an active SEVIS record, it may be possible for you to transfer your SEVIS record to Northeastern directly. So this may not apply to a lot of you here, but for the folks that it might apply to, I just want to spend a minute to say, if you are currently on active OPT or STEM OPT, or you've completed a degree within 5 months of your Northeastern start date, or you will have completed OPT within 5 months of your Northeastern program start date, you have an active SEVIS record, you have an I-20 end date of no more than 60 days in the past, or OPT finished no more than 60 days in the past, your Northeastern program starts no more than 5 months after that end date, you could be eligible to transfer your SEVIS record to us. In that case, you can remain in the US while that transfer is pending. You don't have to depart and re-enter. And your timeline is, you have a little more time to complete that process. So you can submit that I-20 to us up to 2 weeks before your Northeastern start date, that I-20 request. For students who are not transferring and who are coming from overseas and need to be applying for a visa, you want to be requesting your I-20 from us way more than 2 weeks prior to your start date. I would say do it now if you can. So in either situation, if you're transferring or you're coming from outside the US, you will receive your I-20 from us via email to your Northeastern email address. In general, we will only communicate with your Northeastern email address. So get in the habit of checking that every day. You'll receive one email with the I-20 as a PDF attachment, and you'll receive a separate email with the password to open it. As soon as you get that I-20, review it to make sure the information is accurate and contact us if it's not. You'll want to print that I-20 using a high quality printer. And then once you've read all 3 pages that I mentioned previously, sign page 1 of that document. The I-20 will also have a SEVIS ID in the top left. That is your unique SEVIS ID throughout your entire time in F-1 status. It's going to start with N00, and it'll be in the top left part of the document. You'll want to make sure that you know that number, you keep it in a safe place, or you keep your I-20 accessible to you, because you're going to need that number throughout the visa application process specifically. You're also going to need the school code from us, and that is in that middle section on the first page, like I mentioned, that has the information about us. Once you've got that I-20, you've confirmed that everything is correct, the next step is paying something called the I-901 SEVIS fee. So I mentioned before that SEVIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. It's that government database where your student record is maintained. You have to pay a fee to the government for having a SEVIS record. And you'll pay that at fmjfee.com. We will send you the link to that website when we send you your I-20. So these instructions will be included in the email that includes your I-20. But you'll go to that FMJ fee website. The fee is $350 and it needs to be paid before your visa interview. And then, of course, before entering the US. I mentioned that SEVIS ID that starts with N00. You will need that number when you're paying the SEVIS fee. You'll print out a copy of the receipt when you've paid that fee, and you're going to bring that with you to your visa appointment and also when you are traveling and entering the US. If you're transferring to us when you already have an active SEVIS record, you don't need to pay that fee again. If you have F-2 dependents coming with you, they do not need to pay a separate SEVIS fee. For any technical questions about this fee, you'll want to reach out directly to the FMJ fee website, but that's sort of general information so you're aware that the fee does need to be paid. Once you have paid that fee, then you're going to start the process of making your visa appointment. So you need to find your local US embassy or consulate, and it needs to be done outside of the United States at an embassy or consulate. You can go to usembassy.gov. That's where you're going to find the list of embassies and consulates in your home country. And note that as of last fall, all applicants for F or J non-immigrant visas need to schedule your visa appointment in your country of residence, your country of nationality, your home country. We've got more detailed information about that on the OGS website, but keep that in mind. So if, for example, you are a student that is going to be doing the NUIN program, you're going to be starting your time with us in one of our NUIN locations outside of the US and then coming to the US in the spring. Keep in mind that you need to apply for your F-1 visa in your home country before you go to your NUIN location. So you'll need to be applying for potentially a visa for your NUIN location and your F-1 visa at the same time. But yes, in general, keep in mind your visa needs to be applied for in your country of residence. And then on the embassy or consulate website, you'll see your specific instructions for how to start the visa application. As everybody, I imagine, is pretty well aware, sometimes it can be quite a bit of a wait to get a visa appointment. It's really going to vary depending on the time of year, depending on an individual country, embassy operations in that country. But there is a website on the State Department's website that you can see on the screen here that does estimate visa appointment wait times. Should check that out. But really anything to do with wait times to get an appointment, you're going to find that information directly through the embassy. But again, this is why we encourage folks to get started as early as possible, because we are absolutely aware that there are long wait times in some cases to get these appointments. I believe this is where I'm going to hand it over to Caroline to get into some more details about the visa application. Take it away.
Yes. Thank you, Chelsea. So Chelsea will be in the questions section now answering your questions. So feel free to submit those and she will answer them. All right, starting the visa application. You will find instructions to apply for the F-1 non-immigrant visa on your personal US embassy or consulate website. So the instructions are slightly different for every country. But the general process is that you're going to fill out an online DS-160 and pay the MRZ visa fee on the website of your embassy or consulate in your country. For the sections requesting a US address or US contact, you can use the OGS address that's listed on our website and the name and contact information of the DSO listed on your Form I-20 if needed. Complete the Form DS-160 as completely and accurately as possible. And for detailed questions regarding this form, contact your US embassy or consulate. Next, making the actual visa appointment, scheduling your visa interview. While filling out the DS-160 visa application, you will be asked to select a visa interview, a visa appointment date and time. You're going to see the embassy website for expedited appointment options if you are within 60 days of your I-20 program start date and you aren't able to secure an appointment before your start date. So if it's already July and you're trying to get a visa interview then, and there's nothing available before the start of school in September, you can look into options of getting an expedited appointment so that they give you an appointment before school starts. Consular officers have discretion to waive the interview for visa applicants who were recently issued a U.S. visa and who have never been refused a visa unless such refusal was overcome or waived, and who are otherwise eligible. Or first-time F, M, and J academic visa applicants who are citizens or nationals of a country that participate in the visa waiver program called ESTA. So for some of you, you might not have to actually do a visa appointment, but most of you will indeed go to a consulate and have a visa appointment in person. Documents to bring to the visa interview. So the visa interview is not a document-driven process. In fact, how you communicate with the consular officer about your plans in the US is most important. And additional support letters and documentation are not required or necessary and may not be reviewed or considered by the consular officer. So only bring these documents. The following documents are typically required: the online non-immigrant visa application form, DS-160 confirmation page, the visa application fee payment receipt, the Form I-20 issued by OGS at Northeastern University and signed by you in ink, a valid passport, and note the passport should be valid for at least 6 months into the future after your date of entry into the US. So if your passport is expiring soon, you need to renew your passport before you go through the visa interview process. Evidence of financial support, proof of sufficient funds for estimated cost of 1 academic year. Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, SEVIS, I-901 fee payment receipt. A copy of your acceptance letter to Northeastern University. And 1 photograph. Now, what happens at the visa interview itself? Well, your visa interview day will come. You'll probably be very nervous. Be sure to arrive early so that you can get settled. And you'll be in a waiting room at the US Embassy or US Consulate. And they will call your number to come up to a window and speak with a US government official. You will meet with a consular officer for a few minutes and maybe asked questions about your studies, your university choice, and how you are planning to pay for your education, your post-graduation plans, and more. The officer will want to see that you have sufficient English language skills to be successful, and that you can clearly demonstrate your intention to go to the US to study. The F-1 visa is a non-immigrant visa, so you must establish ties to your home country, like family, job, school, property, plans to return home. Non-immigrant means that it's going to be issued for you to come to the US for just a few years, a temporary visa. Whereas an immigrant visa would be you're coming to the US for the rest of your life. But the F-1 visa is only a temporary stay of a few years to come to the US to study. Of course, you just want to be yourself, be honest, and answer questions clearly and concisely. The questions you may be asked: what is the purpose of going to the US? Why did you choose to study in the US? Have you ever been to the US before? Why did you choose Northeastern University? Who will support you financially while you are in the US? What do your parents do for a living? What are your plans after you finish with your studies in the US? Online presence and social media review. The US Department of State, which is in charge of all the US embassies, has announced expanded vetting of online presence for all F and J visa applicants, including students and exchange visitors. As part of this consular process, applicants are required to disclose all social media identifiers on the DS-160 visa application and set their social media profiles to public for consular review. Visa application outcomes. What happens after the visa interview? Well, you're either approved, go through administrative processing, or denied. So approval. The majority of F-1 visa applicants are approved. You may be informed of the approval in the interview or after. They may keep your passport for a period of time to add the visa stamp before returning it to you. So sometimes they'll add the visa stamp right there in front of you on the day. Other times they'll keep your passport for a week so they can add the visa stamp, and then they'll mail your passport to you, or they'll have you come back to the visa interview site to pick up your passport. Administrative processing. You may receive a quote unquote refusal under 221G. This means that your visa application needs further review, including for social media review, and it will be sent for administrative processing. This does not mean that your visa has been denied, but that it will require further security screening. You should contact OGS so we can review the administrative processing notice and advise you on next steps. Finally, denial. If your visa is denied, you will be given a written explanation of the reason for denial. You should contact OGS so we can review the denial notice and advise you on next steps. Just before we go to the next slide, I will say that if you are denied, it is possible to try again to get a new visa interview. And it is also possible to defer your start date. So if you can't make it here for the fall, maybe we would defer your start date to January 2027 or fall 2027. So it is possible to defer your start date if needed. Visa delays. If you're not able to arrive in the US by the start date listed on your Form I-20, you must request a late arrival letter from your college or school. If you're not able to secure a visa appointment and arrive by the I-20 start date or the approved late arrival deadline, which is like a few weeks later, contact your college or school. If your admission or arrival deferral is approved by the school, you can submit a request to defer your I-20 to the term that you will enter the US. If you already received an F-1 visa and the SEVIS ID and school name on your new I-20 match the information on your visa, you may use the same visa for your future start date if the visa will still be valid at that time. If the SEVIS ID or school name on your I-20 do not match the information on your visa, for example, if you got a visa from a different school, from an I-20 from a different school, and now you're trying to come to Northeastern, consult with your local US Embassy or consulate about whether you will need to apply for a new F-1 visa that says Northeastern. If a consular officer asks you to contact your school DSO to update your program start date, please contact OGS immediately. Your visa stamp. So the F-1 visa, it looks like this, and it is a single page of your passport. It's like a big sticker that gets put on one full page of your passport, and that is called your visa, your F-1 visa. And as Chelsea mentioned, the visa is an entry document. It gets looked at when you want to enter the US. You can enter the US using the visa stamp during the validity dates, so between the start date and the expiration date. If the section entries has an S, then that means you can only use the visa to enter the US one single time, S for single entry. If it has an M, much more common, you can enter the US as many times as needed while the visa is valid, M for multiple. So you're going to get a visa that says either S or M, single entry or multiple entries. If you are in the US continuing your program with an active I-20 and your visa stamp expires, you can remain in the US. You will only need to renew your visa if you travel internationally later. If you renew your passport, just travel with the new passport and the old passport that has the valid visa stamp. So as I mentioned, many of you will get an F-1 visa that has multiple entries and that's valid for 5 years, and you just keep using the same F-1 visa for many years to come. But some of you will get an F-1 visa that's only valid for one entry, and it might have a short duration time, maybe 1 year. Well, you are allowed to enter the US on that F-1 visa, but then you can stay in the US even after that visa is expired, as long as you still have an active I-20 showing that you're a current student. Preparing to travel to the US, we do not recommend making any travel or housing arrangements until you have received your visa. Please check your Northeastern University email address daily for important information and updates as your start date arrives. Add OGS-do not reply at northeastern.edu to your approved senders list in your Northeastern email account. You will receive instructions from OGS about what documents to bring and completing your online immigration clearance after your arrival in the US. In the meantime, you can find more information on the OGS website under the new student section, like Chelsea showed you before. Social media and electronic device searches at a US port of entry. A port of entry is the place where you enter the US, for example, an airport. Customs and Border Protection officers have the authority to inspect travelers' electronic devices, such as phones, tablets, and laptops. These inspections may include viewing content stored on the device, including social media apps and messages. CBP may conduct searches without warrant, and refusal to comply may affect your ability to enter the US. Other visa types. So we've been talking this whole time about F-1 student visas, F-1 visas, but you might have heard of other visa types. So here is an explanation of some other visa types. J-1 visa. If you are receiving funding from a government organization, they may require you to apply for a J-1 visa for your degree program. Please see the OGS website New Student section for more information. F-2 dependents. F-2 dependents are a spouse or child of an F-1 student. They cannot enroll in a full-time degree program, and they do not need to request an I-20 from OGS unless changing status. So if you're already in F-2 status, then you would only request an I-20 from OGS if you're going to be changing from F-2 to F-1 status. J-2 dependents are the spouse or child of a J-1 student, a J-1 visa holder. And J-2 dependents can enroll in a full-time degree program. So you do not need to request a DS 2019 from OGS unless you're changing status into J-1 status. Other visa types. Check with the employer or organization sponsoring your visa to determine study eligibility. You don't need an I-20 from OGS unless you're going to change to F-1 status. International Student Orientation. International Student Orientation is an online little course that you're going to take. International Student Orientation is designed to ease your transition to a new city and to help you learn more about your responsibilities as an international student at Northeastern. Your attendance in the OGS International Student Orientation is mandatory, and it will be recorded in your international student record. OGS will send out information about orientation in a few weeks before the start of your program. Make sure you check your Northeastern email frequently, as we will not use your personal email account. International Student Orientation is an online course that you're going to do after you arrive in the United States. Finally, we want to show you how to contact us. So when you're here in Boston, you can come to 360 Huntington Avenue, room 354 Richards Hall on the 3rd floor, and visit us. You can call us on the phone anytime, for international or domestic phone number. We will pick up Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. That's Boston time. And you can, of course, visit our website, northeastern.edu/OGS, or just search in Google OGS Northeastern. And these QR codes are a link to our inquiry form and to our website. So it's important to state that we do not have an email address. So instead of emailing us, you'll actually go to our website and fill out an inquiry form where you give us your name, your email address, and your question, and then we will respond to you from the inquiry form. And I think that might be it.
That
So
is it. I was just trying to get my camera back on.
great.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I'm going to leave this page up with the contact info so that folks can access it. I have been furiously typing away in the
Yes.
Q&A. I believe we have been able to answer most of these questions. Some people are bringing up some really great questions. A couple of things that came up that I just can answer verbally are about how long it takes to get your I-20. I don't remember if I mentioned this. I think I probably didn't if people are asking. So once you've submitted the I-20 request to our office, it takes us up to 15 business days to review it, to issue it to you. Keep in mind, business days don't include weekends. So 15 business days can be up to 3 weeks, especially during the summer as our volume of requests is in the thousands. So this is why we recommend getting this process started as early as possible, because that sort of spreads out that volume so we can move through all of your requests in a more efficient manner. A lot of other good questions that were asked here that we've sort of been able to address individually. If you have questions though about your specific situation, so things that aren't sort of the general information we talked about here, please use this inquiry form that's on your screen right now to contact our office and we can review your situation. Things we can't provide advice on is how to overcome a visa denial. So you should inform us of your denial, but we truly can't really offer any guidance on that other than to say, if you're going to reapply, you need to show that something about your situation has changed. So they may not give you a lot of specifics about the reason for denial, but they will want to see that your situation is different when you reapply. If you're just reapplying with the same information as before, you're likely to get the same outcome as before. Fingers crossed that denials are not something that most of you are going to face, but I understand that in some cases it is a reality. Caroline and I are going to stick around and kind of keep an eye on the chat for another few minutes, but overall, that concludes the information that we've got to share with you today. This recording will be posted on the OGS website. There was one last referral to the website for you. It will be posted on the OGS website, so you can always access it there. And the website itself also has all of this detailed information on it. So everything that we discussed here today is in detail on the website as well. So I encourage you to check that out. Yeah, and then I just want to say thank you so much to all of you who took the time out of your days to attend this session. I hope it was informative based on the questions that we've been getting. It seems like folks have been engaged and are, really eager to get this process going. So primarily, I just want to wish you all the very best of luck in this process. The biggest things I can emphasize, especially when it comes to the visa interview, is be honest and be yourself. The visa officers want to see that most of all, that you are accurately representing your plans and your intentions. So with that, we will conclude our presentation here. We will wrap up the last 1 or 2 questions I think that came up in the chat via typed answers. But that is all for us today. Thank you. We are really, really excited to get to welcome you to Northeastern in the fall. And so I hope everything goes smoothly between now and then. Thanks, everyone. Take care.